Aaron Rodgers' passing numbers have dipped for the Pittsburgh Steelers recently, and they're going to need them to come back at some point. The question is, will they? And it would be a heck of a time to do it against their rival, the Ravens. We talk about that possibility with Mike DeFabo. I'm Chris Carter. This is the Locked On Steelers podcast. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, bringing you your daily dose of all things on the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, you can find the show in your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe to this YouTube channel to get all of your daily Monday through Friday episodes as well as our bonus content. We thank you for making us your first listen every day because we're your team every day. And a reminder, the Locked On Steelers podcast is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is now the #1 sports podcast network in the world. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com to place your NFL live bets all season long, especially as we get into crunch time. More on them later. As I said before, we're joined by the man himself, Mike DeFabo from The Athletic. You know him, you love him. He's their Steelers reporter over there. And Mike, this is a big week. Ravens week always is. But it feels like the Steelers are running out of chances to try to see something out of Aaron Rodgers, who started the year hot, had some really good games from 4 touchdown pass games, and looked like, okay, maybe there's something left in him, in the old arm. But the past few games, it's been a struggle bus. He was not good against the Chargers. He struggled in his one half against the Bengals, and then last week he looked pretty rough again against the Bills. And the question I have for you, Mike, is he cooked? Is he toast? Is he done? Or is there something that Aaron Rodgers can do or channel to make him a competitive quarterback again for the Steelers?
Yeah, that's a good question, Chris. I mean, coming into this year, I had significant questions about what Aaron Rodgers would be at 41 years old, soon to be 42. And I had my doubts. And he really proved me wrong, I think, through his first 9 performances. I went to the Jenna Harner Stats and Information Department for us, Chris, and I have some numbers for you. Through his first 9 outings, Rodgers had a passer rating of 103.1. He had completed 69% of his passes. He threw 17 touchdowns against 5 interceptions, and he put up an EPA per attempt of positive 0.13. I feel like he was doing everything that you could have asked out of a 41-year-old quarterback, right? And it wasn't perfect. He had limitations. It seemed like they were relying overly too much on that short, quick passing game without a lot of an explosive element. The last 3 games, it feels like defenses may have figured him out and realized that there is no explosive element to this offense. And if he's not getting the ball out of his hands quickly, delivering it to DK Metcalf and producing yards after catch, it feels like this offense has struggled to do things consistently. So the last 10 quarters, right, which starts with the game against the Chargers, his passer rating is 67.6. He's completed 52% of his passes for an EPA per attempt of negative 0.18. He's got 2 touchdowns in that span and 3 turnovers. And so I think that the biggest thing holding back this offense right now is they've just struggled to complete passes downfield. And I don't put it all on Aaron Rodgers. Some of it is on him. I think that he has not been on the same page as receivers sometimes. I think sometimes when he throws the deep ball, it kind of flutters or is off target. By the same token, I think it's fair to Rodgers to acknowledge the fact that he's working behind an offensive line that has not been consistent this year. There have been games when they've been really putting him under duress. And then he, without a legitimate wide receiver too, it's been a struggle for guys to get open. So I kind of feel like I'm a skeptic here, where I think that maybe teams have started to figure out what Aaron Rodgers can do, and maybe this might just be like a sign of things to come in the way that the season is trending from here.
Yeah, I think it's something that the Steelers hope to see a turnaround from, but it's something the Steelers saw last year. We saw, the Hard Knocks clips of the Ravens saying Russell Wilson is just layups and 3-pointers, and there's nothing in between. And when they adjusted to that, Russell Wilson never really found his footing again in the season. And I think there's a legitimate and reasonable fear from Steelers fans that could be what they're going through right now. Maybe it's not that exact thing for Aaron Rodgers, but like you said, the teams are all over, the check down pass, trying to get it to Kenneth Gainwell, trying to do those things. And I think the Bills are an example of, they challenged Aaron Rodgers, beat us deep, go ahead, throw, we're gonna run blitz, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. And he just couldn't connect. And it's not just Aaron Rodgers either, because as Arthur Smith pointed out when I asked him about it, 2 weeks ago it was Mason. They had Roman Wilson open for big plays, DK Metcalf open big plays. They just have not been able to connect from the quarterback position. So I tried to pester Aaron Rodgers this week with questions about the deep passing offense, what it is. And I can tell him starting to get under his skin, because he's starting to give me a little pushback and some snark at times. But I want you guys to listen to how he initially handled the question, and as we kept kind of pressing to see what are they doing to try to fix things and try different things to get the deep passing game going, what needs to happen here. Here was Aaron Rodgers when we talked to him this week.
Aaron, you guys haven't completed a pass beyond 20 yards downfield since week 9 as a whole offense. Is there something to the approach that's made it harder to complete the deep balls, or are there just little things here and there, like you're saying, that are getting in the way each week, and you guys are close to breaking that?
I mean, there hasn't been a ton of opportunities. There hasn't been a ton of open guys down the field.
Aaron, is there anything you guys can do as an offense to help the receivers get open, or is it just more them winning one-on-one battles?
Oh, I mean, it's all that. It just comes down to release, having a plan to release, and proper depth, proper timing. We've tried different things with rub routes, and it's just about having a plan at the line of scrimmage and then understanding when to be open, the timing of each route. But I see improvement from those guys. It just hasn't shown up consistently the last few weeks.
How involved were you with Arthur Smith when you guys are talking about, with the structured ways to help get guys more open and the timing of things, and trying to find either new ways or ways to sharpen the opportunities to get more downfield shots?
I'm very involved. Yeah. Do you have a more specific question?
Well, just the weekly meetings that you guys have to do to find new challenges, and I was asking for you to kind of talk more about the challenges that it does to find those answers when there's been so many weeks without the downfield passing game working.
Well, I mean, a lot of things go into that. Coverages. They've been. Most teams are playing double DK, so it's on the rest of the guys to get open. We've been going a lot of big personnel stuff. I'm not sure what the plan will be this week as far as different personnel groupings, but it comes down to having a plan with your release at the line of scrimmage, running the right route, and then me making a throw. And sometimes it's been a combination of any of those three that's caused it to go wrong. But, I think if you look at the tape overall, there hasn't been a ton of opportunities in general to take those shots. And until we run the ball consistently every single week and get some more single high, we're going to win in unconventional ways.
So talking about unconventional ways to make things happen, Mike, you and I both watch tape. You and I both see that there are opportunities. They're not in abundance. They're not every single passing play, but they do have their shots. And I think it's just a matter of, can the Steelers connect on them? Can Aaron Rodgers get out of whatever funk he's been in? And some of the funk has been, him looking uncomfortable with pressure maybe coming or maybe not coming. But then there's also been times where there's been clean pockets and nothing's come from it, and there's been missed opportunities. I look at this and I have the question that, I think is on everyone's mind, and we let off this segment. Does he have it in him to be able to find those answers in the passing game? And especially, as much as he's talking about they need the run game to hit, the run game's under pressure because no one is scared of the deep ball from the Steelers.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I feel like at this point in the season, I can think of one game where they were able to tack downfield, and that was against the Cleveland Browns early on. And that's when I felt best about this offense, because to that point, we hadn't seen the deep shot, and Aaron Rodgers kept saying kind of what he was telling you there in that clip. Well, the reason I'm not throwing it deep is because I'm seeing too high. They saw a single high team in the Browns, and they were able to take advantage. But other than that game, I can't really think of a lot of moments when they've attacked downfield. So
right.
I don't know that we're ever going to see an offense that looks like last year with Russell Wilson, the moon ball, or even, at the end of the 2023 season when Mason Rudolph was uncorking things and throwing it deep to George Pickens. But where I think that they can start to open things up is over the middle of the field, because I know that that's been a big narrative for years now about the Steelers, but there have been times where Rodgers has really been effective in the middle of the field. And I even feel like against the Chargers, which was by far his worst game of the season, one of his worst games of his career, I'm thinking back to that great throw he made right over the middle into a tight window to hit Darnell Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And he has done stuff like that. So I think that the 25 air yard plays or the go balls down the sidelines, those might never be there this year. But I think that Rodgers still has that quick release and enough arm talent, even at 42 years old. He can fit it in the tight windows. And so I think it's going to be about throwing it over the middle of the field and unlocking some of his tight ends in that way. That's going to be the answer.
We've talked about it. They've had the opportunities. They need to take them. They need to hit them. They need to build off of it successfully. And it's been a while since we've seen it for the offense. I think they're definitely hoping that they can get some sort of spark of that against the Ravens. Again, they don't need to be a top 10 passing unit. They don't need to light it up, every single drive. But if you hit on just a few of those deeper passes or intermediates or over the middles, then all of a sudden it frees up the passes to the flat. It frees up the run game, because then when defenses have to honor that as something that they then the balance of what I think Arthur Smith tries to do with his offense really starts to work. But you got to hit it. It's going to take coordination from the quarterback and the receivers, the tight ends, and everyone involved in trying to make those plays to make that happen. And I think that's a bigger story than people realize coming up with this Steelers-Ravens matchup. Speaking of that matchup, we're going to get to all of our Week 14 picks here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Don't go anywhere. Chris Carter, Mike DeFabo, stick with us. We'll be right back. But first, I remind you, this show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL Sundays move fast, and one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every winning swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. In fact, if you were paying attention earlier this week, the Steelers went from being 6.5-point underdogs to 5.5-point underdogs against the Ravens this week. Player props update as guys heat up. You can bet the next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. We're back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter, Mike DeFabo, breaking things down. Mike, we have you in place for your wife this week. She normally does our picks with us, and Mike, she is crushing everything right now, and I can't stand it. I don't know how.
Chris, she's the best at it. Every time every time I try to make a pick or anything like that, I run it by her, because she is very good at predicting football games. I don't know why, but that's a special gift she's got.
It's a special gift that she has right now. Jenna is up on me by 12 games. I'm not catching her this year. She's second.
How's Mike's brother, who's my brother, is in the pool as Mike's brother. How's he doing? Shout out to Vince.
I don't see him in the top 30. Mike's brother. Yeah, he's not in the top 30, so we'll have to go searching for him.
He's got to pick it up.
He's got to pick it up. But Jenna right now is tied with several people for second place with 133 correct picks. And Sprizzle is 43 is the number one player right now with 135 correct picks. So that's interesting. Where is Mike's brother? We're gonna take a quick second here to see if he's on the second group. Nope. Oh no, he's tied for 30. So he's in that group. He has 130 correct picks on the year. So he's only 3 games back from Jenna. So shout out to everyone. People, you're just around good football pickers, Mike. We need you. I need you to get to talk to your people more.
You know what you need? You need some of Linda Fabo's Italian food. That'll get you ready. Come over for the Feast of the Seven Fishes, Chris. We'll take care of you.
I'm all for it. Absolutely. Let's get to some picks this week. We get into week 14 as always. All the odds, ends, and lines we provide you are from FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. We skip, of course, Thursday Night Football as we're recording this on Thursday. But let's get into Sunday, 1 o'clock. Dolphins at Jets. The Dolphins are 3-point favorites. The Dolphins, crazy enough, aren't exactly dead just yet. I thought that they were, but they're 5-7. They're on the cusp of being completely out of it. But they've been able to string a few things together. They have won 3 straight, and in that 3 straight, they've beaten the Bills. Yes, they've also beaten the Commanders and the Saints, and barely doing so. But Mike, I'm going to ride with Miami. I know typically they don't play well in December, but I think that they can get a 4th win here because the Jets are just that rough of a team.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It seems like people are really rallying around Mike McDaniel. And it looked like at one point he had lost the locker room and, he's going to lose his job. But lately they've been a team that they had nothing to play for and they're still fighting. So I agree with you. I think that the Jets are so abysmal. I think that the Dolphins are a better team right now.
Seahawks at Falcons. Seahawks are 6.5-point favorites in this game. Feel like this one's kind of a gimme when you look at it. It's a good amount of points to give, but the Falcons have just been wildly inconsistent. Meanwhile, the Seahawks, they're 9-3. They're tied for the best record in the NFC. They just lose out in the tiebreaker right now to the Rams, which is why they're the 5 seed in the NFC playoff race instead of the 1 or the 2 seed. But give me Seattle. I think that they handle these guys pretty quickly.
Yeah, and if you're going to place a bet on FanDuel or something like that, I even like them to cover this game. I feel like Seattle's starting to enter that conversation of one of those few handful of teams that can legitimately make a run. I feel like they can beat you in a variety of ways. They can beat you by running the ball with Kenneth Walker. They can beat you with Sam Darnold. And then they've got a really good defensive mind as their head coach who does a lot of different creative, innovative things on defense. So I really love what Seattle's doing, and I'm rolling with them the rest of the season.
Moving right along here, the Saints at the Buccaneers, NFC South matchup here. Buccaneers are 8.5-point home favorites. They've been banged up all season long, but they keep finding answers. They're the 4 seed in the NFC playoff race right now, winning the NFC South with a 7-5 record. But the Panthers are hard on their trail at 7-6, just a half game back here. Meanwhile, though, the Saints are 2-10, vying for one of those top picks. Give me the Bucs and give me them to cover.
Yeah, I agree with you, Chris. I have nothing else to add to that. I'm a fan of what Baker Mayfield has done in his second or third act here, the way that he's been able to put things together. And he's just a scrapper. He's not 100% healthy, but I think he's going to find a way to get it done again.
Moving right along, 2 teams that are out of the NFC playoff picture pretty much at this point, but are interesting to keep tabs on. You got the Commanders and the Vikings. The Vikings are at home and 1.5-point favorites here. But this has been a Commanders team that's been mired with injuries. Jaden Daniels hasn't been able to get back. But there's questions if he will be able to be back. And he was a full participant in practice on Thursday, so maybe he's back. And because of that, I'm going to say he's going to come back and he's going to have a big performance for them against a Viking team that's been struggling. I think that Jaden Daniels could have, if he comes back and he leads, the Commanders down the stretch to a few wins, that can help them. They're already out of it. They've got 9 losses already. But if they can finish strong, they can use a high draft pick, get another really good player, and then try to get back into contention next year. So give me the Commanders winning this one.
Yeah, I agree with you. And also I feel like the Vikings have fallen so far short of expectations this year. I mean, given what they did last year, I think everyone thought that they would just plug in the quarterback. They've got a great offensive mind at their head coach. He was going to work with him, help him reach his potential. It's just not happened. Their offense seems like it's a mess. And truthfully, I feel like the Vikings defense is overrated a bit. I mean, I think it's kind of like the name brand. You hear Brian Flores and you expect they're really good, and they throw some crazy things at you, but they've not been consistent either. So I agree with you. I'm going with the Commanders in this one, Chris.
Moving right along, AFC South matchup here. Colts at Jaguars. The Colts started off red hot, but they're starting to cool off. They're now 8-4, and the Jaguars have actually leaped into first place, tied with the Colts, but with tiebreakers, they have the lead in the AFC South. So a big matchup for that division and the playoff hopes of both teams. The Colts, though, are favored by 1.5 points on the road here. But, Mike, give me the Jaguars. I like the way that they're playing.
Okay.
I'm going for an upset here, technically here, but I'm a little worried that the Colts might have been either figured out or they've just hit a rough patch, because now they've lost 2 in a row. They've lost 3 of their last 4, and the Steelers are included in that. And look, they've also lost to the Chiefs and Texans. Chiefs got Patrick Mahomes. Any day you can lose them. And the Texans defense is for real. But I think that they're in for a rough stretch right now. Whereas the Jaguars, they've won 3 straight. And yes, 2 of those are the Cardinals and the Titans, but one of those is a blowout win over the Chargers. I just think that the Jaguars are going to ride a hot hand and win a close game here against their division rival at home.
And the crazy thing about this is, like, at one point we were talking about the Colts being the number 1 team in the AFC.
Yep.
There is a world where they don't even make the playoffs.
Yep.
You just look at the division is starting to slip away from them. There's some teams in the wild card that are hot on their trails right now. So I think this is a really big game for the Colts, but I think that they can get it done. And I think that they're going to lean back into Jonathan Taylor, trust him to run the football, know what he can do, and build everything off of that. So I like the Colts to get back on track.
Moving right along, got Titans at Browns. Not sure how many people are going to be tuning into this one outside of the fan base. The Browns are 3.5-point favorites here, Mike. And you know what? What the heck? Give me the Browns. I know that they're bad, but the Titans have been even worse. They have just 1 win on their season right now. They're slated into that number 1 pick, and I just think the offense, it's just mightily struggling. And even for good teams, winning in Cleveland right now is tough with the defense that they've been able to bring. So give me the Browns winning. It will be ugly, it'll be weird, but they're gonna win.
Yeah, I mean, the Browns are a bad football team, but they have one thing going for them. They have a really, really good defense. That is a legitimate defense. And Myles Garrett, he's going to be going for that sack record, and he might get it in this game or in the next game. I think he's like 3.5 away from it.
Yeah.
So I think that they're 2 bad teams, but one of the 2 teams does something well, and that's the Browns playing defense. So I'll go with that.
Now, this is a game I think could be game of the week type vibes. I know Steelers Ravens is always big, but the Bengals at the Bills. The Bills are 5.5-point favorites at home, Mike. But man, I think there's a lot of people looking at the Bengals right now and being like, do we want to make sure that those guys don't make the playoffs? Because right now, the Bengals, they just got Joe Burrow back. They destroyed the Ravens last week, 32-14. And they could be in a position where they could, if they win out, there's still a shot for them to win the division if they can win out, and then the Steelers and Ravens both kind of finish with that 9-8, and then they get the right tiebreakers. But that involves beating the Bills in Buffalo this week, and I've gone back and forth about this game. But give me the Bengals. I think that they have something going right now offensively that could keep things. I do think the Bills with their run game could slow this game down, but I'm going with Cincinnati here, thinking that there's going to be a hot hand. Joe Burrow. I think Joe Burrow is going to throw himself into some trouble at some point down this season, and the defense is going to let up. But I think that they have some momentum right now, and it's just going to be enough to carry them for a second straight week.
Yeah, Chris, we do something at The Athletic called AFC North Whip Around, and the last one is always you have to predict the games within the division. And I made the same point that you made, that I think that the Bills have like the run-heavy kind of offense to play, keep away from Joe Burrow, limit the amount of possessions that he has. And then I just feel like that Bengals defense, even though the last 3 games or so, they've shown some minor improvements. Before that, they were on pace to be historically the worst defense of all time.
Yeah,
and I just can't get over that. I just can't. I feel like they're not improved. They still, I think, are that same bad defense. And so for that reason, I feel like, especially at home, I got to go with the Buffalo Bills.
Keeping it rolling here. AFC West showdown, Broncos at Raiders. Broncos are 7.5-point favorites on the road. You know what's funny? This looks like it should be a lopsided matchup when one team's won 9 straight games. The Broncos have. They're sitting at 10-2. But give me the Broncos, but give me the Raiders to cover, because that's a wide spread. I think that the Broncos have done a good job winning the games they're supposed to win, and then they pulled off some good upsets. You know, their win against the Cowboys is impressive. Their winning against the Eagles is impressive. But I think that the Raiders, even though they have not been good, I think they keep it close enough to cover. I just think but the Broncos do end up winning.
Yeah, I mean, I'm never going to pick the Raiders the entire year. I don't think that I picked them in a single game in any situation to win. I I agree with you that, like, I don't know that I believe in the Broncos as like the top team in the AFC or one of the top teams in the AFC, but they've been rolling. And I think that maybe the best thing that they have going for them is Vance Joseph has been doing an awesome job coordinating that defense, throwing a variety of looks at quarterbacks. I think it's going to be a tough day for, a Raiders team that just fired Chip Kelly pretty recently. I don't even know what they got going for offensive coordinator right now and what kind of dysfunction they have on that side of the ball. So I just feel like the defense of the Broncos against that floundering offense of the Raiders looks like a huge mismatch and in the Broncos' favor.
This also is up for game of the week category. Bears at Packers, oldest NFL rivalry. The Packers are 6.5-point favorites at home. That is a big spread for two teams that are at the top of the NFL right now. The Bears currently sit in first place of not just the NFC North, but the entire NFC with their 9-3 record. But right behind them is the 8-3-1 Packers. I've gone back and forth about this one, but give me the Bears. I actually kind of like them to go into Green Bay. I think Caleb Williams is playing really well. The defense is giving them some good looks, and I think that they can be upstarts here. I think that the Bears and Packers, I think this one, it isn't the last time they'll play. They'll play again, in just a couple of weeks. But I would not be shocked to see these guys also play a third game in the playoffs. But give me Chicago in this one. I think that they're red hot. They've won 5 straight. The Packers ain't exactly, slumping right now. They've won 3 straight, but I think Chicago's got something for these guys this week.
Chris, you might end up talking me into this. I have my own personal pick. I'm with my cousin, and I already picked the Packers. My thought process is just I look at the way the Steelers played both of those teams, and I felt like with Mason Rudolph, Steelers didn't even play their best game. They were kind of in contention against the Bears. I felt like they were never in it against the Packers. The Packers seemed like the more complete team. I think I'm going with them, Chris, but I feel like it's truly a coin flip. I'm going to lean towards the Packers, mostly because the game's being played at Lambeau Field. But later this season when they play at Soldier Field, maybe I'll change my mind.
Rams at Cardinals. Rams 8.5-point favorites, and they should be. They are right now the 2 seed in the NFC. They've been consistently good all year long. Give me the Rams. I don't care about the 8.5 points. I'll take those 2.
Yeah, I would agree. I like back when I used to cover Purdue in the olden days. They had an old coach that said, "It's not who you play; it's when you play them." And right now, the Rams are coming off of a loss. And when you're coming off of a loss, I feel like they're just primed for like a huge get-right type of game, put up a ton of points, play a pretty complete game. So I agree with you. I think that the Rams are one of the teams that's legitimately in the conversation in the NFC, and I think that they take care of business in a big way with a pretty lopsided win.
Looking down the list here, another game that I think a lot of people are going to keep an eye on is the Sunday night game, Texans at Chiefs. Chiefs are 3.5-point favorites, Mike, and to me, I think that there's a lot of pressure on them. They have to win this game. If they don't, they'd fall to 6-7. I feel terrible saying that.
Oh no,
but yeah. But if they fall to 6-7, they're already basically out of the divisional race. But if you fall to 6-7, most likely there is.
You keep saying it.
I'm sorry to whatever parent is listening to their kid yell right now. But if they fall to that record, there we go. They're going to be most likely 2, maybe 3 games out of the wild card race, and that's just a lot to have to make up in 4 weeks. But I think the Texans are going to hurt these guys up. I think that the Chiefs' offensive line has been struggling. The Texans' offense is not exactly scaring me at all. But when I look at this team, they've won 4 straight. Their defense is probably the best in the NFL right now. And they've beaten and you look at the last 2 games, they beat the Bills, they beat the Colts. They've been playing really good football. The Chiefs, they've lost 3 of their last 4. So give me the Texans. I think that the defense wins out in this one.
Yeah, this is a tough one because I feel like I've kept saying okay, this is a must-win game for the Chiefs. This is when the Chiefs are finally going to put it together, and they keep letting me down. And so my head says pick the Texans. My heart says pick the Chiefs. And I'm going to give the Chiefs one more chance. I'm probably going to regret it. One more chance. We're going to give them one more last chance to prove to us all that they can be in the playoffs and make some noise. Last chance, I promise. Chiefs.
Going with the Chiefs there. Finally, Monday Night Football. This is also a big game. 2 8-4 teams. The Eagles at the Chargers. The FanDuel has the Eagles as road 2.5-point favorites. I was gonna pick the Eagles, but then I saw that Jalen Carter is supposed to be out for this game, and I do think that makes a big difference with this team because the Eagles live off of dominating the trenches. Give me the Chargers. I think they're going to win at home. You're going out to the West Coast. I think that they find a way to win because they can at least maybe now neutralize the advantages the Eagles have up front, and then that allows this to be a thing. Though Justin Herbert's also been dealing with his own injuries, but I still think the Chargers find a way to win.
Yeah, you're right. Justin Herbert's dealing with some kind of a hand or wrist. Is that right? I saw him taking snaps with a weird glove on his hand on social media. I think what's interesting about this is it's two teams I think that want to play similar styles of football. Like the Eagles were on the forefront of this get really big, play bully ball, win the trenches kind of movement that's been sweeping through the NFL. But then Jim Harbaugh has been playing that brand of football back, at Stanford, when he was with the 49ers, when he was with Michigan. And I like what the Chargers are doing offensively. I think that they're going to be a team that is committed to running the football, wearing down that Eagles team. And then defensively, I think that the Chargers match up very well against the run. They were the best defense in the league last year, and they're finally starting to play like that again. So I'm with you, Chris. Let's go with the Chargers together.
All right, there you have all the picks outside of Steelers Ravens. We'll get to our picks for that game next here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter, Mike DeFabo, stick with us. We'll be right back. We're back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter here with Mike DeFabo of The Athletic. Mike, it's time to start looking at Steelers Ravens here. Before we get to our predictions, wanted to ask you, what should be the plan for facing this offense? I've asked this to a couple people this week, Alan Saunders, Nick Farabaugh, and I've talked about it. But this is a Ravens team that prides itself on running the ball. When you look at the numbers, they are the best. They have the best explosive run rate in the NFL. They have the 5th highest rushing yards per game, 4th highest rushing yards per carry. And the Steelers just got run over. They're not getting Derrick Harmon back. Should this be a week that the Steelers say, you know what? Forget everything else. We're stuffing the run. We don't care about Lamar's arm. We're going to blitz you. We're going to run stuff you. And then you're going to worry about everything. We'll trust Joey Porter and everyone else to hold up in coverage against your receivers and tight ends. Is that a sound way to go about it? Or should the Steelers try to win with the style of defense, the too high safety looks that have allowed them to contain other teams' passing attacks?
I think you have to just load the box and try to shut down Derrick Henry. I think that the stat that's going to tell the story of the game is how many rushing yards did Derrick Henry have? Not how many rushing yards did the Ravens have. How many did Derrick Henry have? Because really, like, you talk about all these explosive stats, he's such a big piece of that because when he gets to that second and third level, he's just impossible to bring down. He has the breakaway speed. He has the physicality. Mm-hmm. No one's going to want to tackle him. No one can tackle him. And so bottling him up at the line of scrimmage is really your best bet for keeping a guy like that under wraps. And so, like, I think that they're going to have to sell out to stop Henry. And I think that the other part of this conversation is, like, Lamar has not been healthy for weeks. He missed another practice on Thursday in preparation of the game. And so you're not talking about peak Lamar Jackson. You're talking about a hobbled version of him, diminished version of him. And so I think that really it's just like you got to stop the run and then like live with whatever Lamar Jackson does with his legs or with his arm.
I hear you there. I'm on the same boat. I've been a person that I get the too high safety looks and how they've deployed that. But to me, this is a week where you got to say, you know what, Lamar, beat us with Zay Flowers, beat us with those guys. And part of it's also the tight ends. So they just re-signed Mark Andrews to a big deal. But I'd say, you know what, Joey, this is your week to shut down a wide receiver. James Pierre, this is your week to show that you can break up passes to whoever we put you with. Jalen Ramsey, run with those tight ends. Do everything you can to take those guys out. Peyton Wilson, you want to be the best cover linebacker in football? Prove it this week. If they can get Patrick Queen back this week, like this is your chance for those guys to win and still keep a safety, monitoring, whether that's Kyle Duggar, though he has a hand injury. We'll see if he plays this week, but keep a person back there to kind of monitor things behind the defense. But load the box, be aggressive, take away the run, make it so that Lamar Jackson nor Derrick Henry can hurt you on the ground, and then try to get this offense going. But I agree with you that that's the right approach here. We go with our FanDuel odds, ends, and lines on this game. Again, the Steelers are 5.5-point underdogs here on the road to the Ravens on for a Sunday 1 p.m. kickoff. The money line sits at Steelers plus 215, Ravens minus 260. The over under at 43.5 points. All those odds, ends, and lines coming to you from FanDuel.com. Mike, give us your X factor that decides the game and your final score prediction.
My X factor is Derrick Harmon and the fact that he is not playing.
There.
So you go back to OTAs, and the defensive coordinator, Terrell Austin, said, we have a Baltimore problem. He acknowledged the fact that the last 2 times the Steelers met the Ravens, they gave up 519 rushing yards, including 299 rushing yards in that playoff loss. So you flash forward and you say, well, what have the Steelers tangibly done to make things different? Well, drafting Derrick Harmon in the first round is a great first step and a big step towards slowing down an explosive running game. He's not playing. So that you're not only are you not getting an upgrade, you're taking multiple steps back at that position to have Y.A. Black starting. I just feel like this defense showed you what they are against the run against the Bills. Now with Derrick Harmon still not in, I just don't see the Steelers being able to bottle up Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson in the running game. I think that the Ravens are going to control time of possession. I think that they're going to control, the line of scrimmage. And I think that they're going to pull out a win. I like them to win, let's say, 27-23 Ravens.
I picked the Steelers in our Wednesday Locked On Steelers squad show, I think that they could pull one over on Baltimore this week. The way they have so many times in the past, I think they've still won, even though they lost the last 2. I think they've still won 3 or 7 of the last 10 times these teams have matched up. But still, Mike, I look back at this and I make that pick on Wednesday, and I know we're recording Thursday night. It's only been a day, but that's Wednesday to Thursday is when I start to do more of my forward looking instead of, studying the film from last week. And the more and more I examine the Ravens, I have a hard time seeing the Steelers find the answers in this game. Especially when you just look at one key factor here that I think could really decide the game is explosive plays. The Ravens have the highest explosive run rate, the 7th highest explosive pass rate, and the 3rd highest explosive rate overall. The Steelers have been allowing explosive rates a lot in the 20s. They're 22nd against the run, 25th against the pass, and 23rd overall when it comes to allowing explosive plays. And that, to me, is just a bad omen for this Steelers team. And I think that's the X factor that I have, is that the Ravens, I think, end up finding a way to get those explosive plays either on the ground or off play action. And the Steelers have not responded well when teams hit their explosive plays. The Steelers play well when they play to the situation, when the players are able to keep the scheme to what it was designed to be. It works. Mike Tomlin pointed this out on Tuesday, but the Steelers are the number 1 offense at converting 3rd and short, which he's right. They've converted 71.1% of 3rd downs of 3 and shorter. They are really good at winning those situations. They're 5th in red zone touchdown percentage. So they're able to, when they stay on a script, they're good. But the problem is they also need to be able to perform when the script goes bad, and that's what we haven't seen them do so. And when you have an explosive offense like the Ravens, that's how you can offset a script. I'm switching my picks from what I said Wednesday. I'm going Ravens, and I'm going to say I still think this is going to be a wacky game because I gave a wacky score before. So I need to come up with a weird score to hear. Let's say that's not that wacky. Let's say 26-25. And it's,
okay.
I was trying to think of something weird here, but I think it's going to be like, I don't think the Ravens are going to dominate. I think it's going to be a back and forth game, but I think it's going to be one of those games where they do just enough and they either get in field goal range and hit it at the last second, or they get a touchdown, John Harbaugh goes for 2, and instead of Lamar Jackson being pressured by TJ Watt and him missing the wide open Mark Andrews, he gets it this time around, and the Steelers fall to the record that I'm not allowed to say because kids will freak out. But I'm glad I stopped myself.
One last thing I want to say before we sign off here. We heard the fire Tomlin chants, but I think that the wildest scenario would be if they lose this week. Mike Tomlin so often in the past has been able to rally teams that looked like that they were dead. Yep. And teams that a lot of guys would have given up on the season, he's convinced them that they still had life and to buy back in. One of the craziest outcomes of this year would be they go to Baltimore, they lose, then they take care of business against the Dolphins, they beat the Browns, and they beat the Ravens in the season finale and somehow squeak into the playoffs. So this is like a huge matchup for the Steelers. And if they win, they're putting themselves in a good position to make the playoffs. But if they don't, then I think it really sets the table for, does Tomlin have one more of those kind of magical, getting the most out of a team when they look like they're out of it type of runs. And so I think it's going to be a fascinating end of the season, Chris.
I think it could be. It very well could be in either direction. But to your point, and the reason I'm picking them here, the Steelers, their backs aren't up against the wall yet. They're getting close. I think if they lose this game, they put themselves in a position where they can lose one more game and that's it. But if they win this game, it would kind of give them the cushion to say, like, if they lost the Dolphins, not all is lost. But if they lose this game, that Dolphins game becomes a must win. The Lions game, not as much. One, the Lions are good. But 2, that's an NFC game, so it might not impact as much. But they have to win 3 of their last 4, and one of those games would have to include beating the Ravens and then hoping. Because the Ravens, they have a tough schedule too. Outside of the Steelers, they still have to play Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. They have to, and they've already lost to them at home. They have to play the Packers in Green Bay, and they have to play the Patriots. That's 3 other games, including the other Steelers game, that aren't easy. So if they lose this game, not all is lost. I think that they will lose this game. But we will see what happens Sunday, 1 p.m. at M&T Bank Stadium. Mike, you'll be there, right?
I'll be there, Chris. Ready to go.
I'll be chilling at home, doing my thing from here for the Post-Gazette, as well as for the Locked On Steelers podcast. Mike, thanks so much for joining us here. Let people know where they can find you, follow you, and get more of your work.
Yeah, for sure. You can follow me on social media at Mike DeFabo, and you can see me in Baltimore. If you show up at the right bar at the right time, you might find me there.
The right bar at the right time. There you go. He's Mike DeFabo from The Athletic. Mike, thanks for joining us. Thank you all for joining us here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, wherever you get social media. My handle is always at Carter Critiques. You can read my work in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, including the several stories I've written this week, whether it's about the run defense, whether it's about the grades, whether it's about the film studies. We're also trying to work on something on the passing game for this weekend. Get it all at post-gazette.com. Check out our stuff there as well. We have a lot of great things there, but you can always find me here every day, Monday through Friday, on the Locked On Steelers podcast, wherever you get your podcast, on your favorite podcasting apps, or on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to this channel to get all of our daily content. We'll be back here Sunday afternoon/evening after Steelers Ravens. Keep it here with the Locked On Steelers podcast.